Hi. Hi, Hobby. Are you muted? If you're muted, you can't tell me you're muted. Hi, Maya. Welcome. Oh, goodness me. I'm guessing that you are both muted. Let's see. Hi, Hobby.
I'm unmuted.
You're unmuted. Okay. You were able to unmute yourself?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm not on video.
Can you, it may be because, can you start your video on the bottom left, or it won't let you do that?
It's thinking. There we go.
There you are. Hi. And Maya, I took everyone off of mute. Are you here? Can you see us? Do you want to be on video?
Please pardon me. I'm eating lunch, so.
Yes. No worries. This is my first Zoom endeavor as the administrator. So I've done a couple of test runs, but we know how that goes.
Yeah. There's always something that shows up and it's like, where did that come from? I've never seen that before. What do I do now?
Right, right. So I'm going to give a few more minutes for those of us. Hi. I see you raising your hand, Maya.
Mm-hmm.
Are you in the chat section on the little orange square on the bottom? Could you just let me know if you're purposefully not talking or if you're muted? Just for my own edification. Okay, let's see. So if you go to the bottom left, there should be a place to activate video. So I'm going to just take this moment for the three of us that are gathered here, excuse me, to just really tune in both to each other and to a sacred space that we're creating. And I created, hi Grace. Are you able to turn your, there you are. Now we have two Mayas.
She must have called in and disconnected from the other, I'm thinking.
So we are just getting started, Grace. And since this is my first time as administrator, we're working through a few of the bugs. So let's just all take a deep breath. That's like bringing that sense of the sacred and of grace into both the technology and into the circle that we're creating. So Grace the person. Just checking to see if your audio is on. Can you see?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I
Okay.
can.
Mm-hmm.
I did want us initially just to do a little go around of names and whatnot, but we're going to wait one more minute and see who else can join us. Lovely to see some friendly faces and friendly names. There's Maya.
Hey. Took me a little bit.
Are you signed on twice?
I might be. I tried to do it through my computer and it wouldn't work.
Okay. Is this your phone?
Yes.
Okay. Welcome. So, actually, I'm going to turn my music down. I don't know. Can you hear my music?
I can't hear your music.
Okay. I hear your puppy, your dog.
Yeah, maybe I'll go in the other room, so that's not a problem. Sorry.
So thank you for joining me. It's lovely to have supportive, kindred spirits here. So after we get started, I will switch it. I don't know. Can you only see me talking, Grace, or can you see the other folks?
You'll see you big, and then everyone else will be on the right side and small.
Okay. Wonderful. So this is the very sacred but also very human workshop presentation of creating a personal altar for 2018. So it will be the unplugged, uncut version with all foibles and mistakes included. So I'm really glad to have each of you here that's here live, and to welcome those of you if you're watching the video. So I thought it would be an auspicious time to do an event like this on January 11th at 1 p.m. Just the idea of that alignment of the 1-1-1. And part of the idea of creating an altar or working with altars is that opening to a sense of alignment, both alignment with what our intentions are or what our desires are, an alignment with our higher selves or our highest selves, and alignment with, excuse me, the whole of creation, and the way that there is that web that we are all interconnected with. So as we get started, the four of you that are here live the three of you, I'm the fourth, would love to have each of you say your name, say where you are located, and pardon me, also if you could invoke or bring in a quality into our time together today, would welcome you to do that as well. So, Hobby, will you go first?
My name is Hobby, and I'm calling in from Charlottesville, Virginia. And my word for this year is focus. So I bring focus.
So let's breathe that in. So Maya, would you go next?
Sure. My name is Maya Goldweber, and I'm in Richmond, Virginia. And over this year, I've really been focusing on intention and self-awareness. And so that's kind of my word for today.
Excellent. Yeah, so let's just bask in that idea of intentionality and being self-aware, tuned in. And Grace.
Hello, I apologize. They're jackhammering below us because we have lost water. So if you hear jackhammering, I'm going to put myself on mute most of the time because I can hear it. It's off right now, but it's just temporary. So yeah, I'm glad to be here. I'm from Lexington, Kentucky. And I'd like to invoke creativity.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Yeah, so we are all creative beings that are on the call currently. So let's just tune into, for you, what that essence of creativity feels like, looks like, how it expresses through you. All right, so I'm Joni, and
do a Word document and have you drop it on.
I am here in Richmond, Virginia as well, and my word, or my kind of the quality that I would like to invoke today is support. So that idea of being supported. So I'm going to ask Hobby if you can mute yourself. I have Maya and Grace are muted. Thank you. And let's see. I think there is a way to switch it. So as long as I'm talking, I guess I'll be the main person on the screen. So we're gonna take it from here. So I wanted to do this today because we are at a time in our lives, and I would say a time in history where there's a lot of intensity, there's a lot of distortion, there's a lot of upheaval happening in life. And I think it's fair to say that most of us, if we're not intimately being touched by that in our own personal life, we're seeing it either in our families or our communities, certainly playing out on the political level, and in the world, the larger world. And so we need resources that we can open to, rest in, and that can support us. And for most of us as women, I don't know too many women that feel like they have a surplus of support. Most women that I know are the hub of their life and of most of their relationships, and are giving in profound and important and significant ways. Like we are, the hub of the wheel. I think Anne Morrow Lindbergh talked about that many moons ago in her book, Gifts of the Sea. So we are the resource for so many people in our lives or beings in our lives. And the importance of us being deeply rooted in resource is critical, because we can't possibly hold all that we're meant to hold in our lives unless we have support. We just can't do it alone. And most of the time, or certainly our culture is geared towards that lone wolf, or that kind of the patriarchal or the masculine sense of being able to do it on our own and being the, kind of the lone figure that can do it. But we know that the feminine paradigm is much more about rooting into a sense of connection and connectedness. For me personally, a sense of spiritual connection or opening to something beyond just the superficial of what we see on the surface of life has always been a deep resource for me personally. And along with that, I've also was a little girl that loved to collect like little bits from the natural world. I remember going to my grandmother's house and getting these teeny little pine cones and just bringing them home and having collections of things like that, or stones that I found somewhere, or shells or sand dollars, and bringing them home and placing them around my room, or, kind of arranging them. And it was only later that I realized that while on the one hand, the beauty or the uniqueness of these items were speaking to me, speaking to my young little spirit. But there was also an essence or a quality that was coming through that I was receiving from them. And so this idea of creating an altar or creating a space where we can kind of bring into our home or into our space something that is nourishing and feeding us and also acting as a touchstone in our lives for remembering that larger connection and remembering the ways that we're connected and the ways that we are supported. So I'm actually going to switch over and pull up some photos as soon as there we go. Remember how to do switch the screen. All right. So if you have, like I do, I have all of your pictures on the right-hand side. You can move them over to the left-hand side. So they're covering over my photo stuff, and then you can see the screen in whole. Everyone can see the screen? Right, so this idea of rooting in grace. So let's see, is it gonna let me? There we go. So I love this quote. That some things have to be believed in order to be seen. And I think so much of humanity is caught in only believing what we can see and missing what is deeper. And the fact of the matter is that what we can see, just like this iceberg, is a mere fraction of what is present. And I know in many ways that the three of you, I'm preaching to the choir. I know that you know this, but most of us don't. And to the extent that each of you is holding that awareness in your own life and in your own world, it's like it's like infusing that light, infusing that love, infusing that energy or that grace or that state into the world, into a world that is in many ways filled with confusion, or almost like remembering the fires from California on the West Coast, like after the fire clears or after the fire burns off and there's all this thick smoke, that in many ways, in terms of belief systems, in terms of fear, in terms of more primitive stories running, it's kind of rampant in our world these days. And so to the extent that there are women and men around the world that are holding a vision and holding a frequency or a vibration of something more clear and more true and more profound, something that has these deeper roots, we're uplifting and upleveling the whole. And so it brings us to altars. And an altar is one way, because I do feel like in order for us to be those women of truth or carriers of the light, let's welcome looks like we have someone joining us. Welcome. To the extent that we can be that kind of clarity in a world that's so unclear and so muddy right now, we each need to have practices in our lives that support that, that support us living in the truth and tuning into that sense of clarity. And I know that you all have that in your life. Those of you that are with me on this call live, I know that that's part of your practice, and it certainly is part of mine as well. And whether it's mindfulness or meditation or creativity or prayer or chanting or movement or walking in nature, all powerful practices that help us root and connect and bring more of a sense of support into our lives. And an altar can be a very powerful way, in a three-dimensional, concrete way, to bring that into your home as well. So, also the value in part of creating the practice is also carving out and creating sacred space for yourself, because an altar essentially is based on the Latin word alta, which means high place or elevated place, is really about a more refined state energetically. So a place of clarity, of purity, of reverence. So I'm going to show you some photos of some altars that I found that I think are lovely. And this is just a very basic and primitive altar that was created outside in the outer world. And there are offerings there, and you can see the way that the person intentionally laid out each of the pieces. And that's one of the things that we get to do in creating an altar, is express ourselves both creatively and with intentionality. So this is a more traditional altar. This is the kind of altar I grew up with in the Catholic tradition. And I don't know what it's like for you to view this image, but for me, it does invoke a certain quality or a certain essence or energy. And if it's not offensive to you, because I know for some people traditional religious imagery can be, then I suspect you probably can feel some kind of essence being evoked from this place that is used for a specific sacred purpose, an intentional purpose that everyone knows and honors and acknowledges is used for both honoring the Divine Mother, or Mary, as well as petitioning her for support. This too is from the same cathedral that we have here in Richmond. And again, it's surrounding the larger altar, but it's this idea of people bringing their petitions with the light to the altar, which is one of the ways that altars have been used. So this is a family shrine. So there are many cultures that honor ancestors. And in our Western culture, we don't do that nearly to the extent as many other cultures do. But there are many places where you would find an altar specifically for the family, for the ancestors that have departed, and there would be prayers. And actually, when I was a little girl, I have an aunt who was Japanese. My uncle was a Marine, and he married her and brought her, and she was a practitioner of, I frankly don't know what her faith was, but she had a family shrine. And I remember spending the night at her home and seeing the bowl of rice as an offering, and sometimes a banana. In fact, my uncle used to joke that the family got the best bananas for the offering, and he always got the green ones. So that can be another way that we can create altars in our life. So we have a beautiful altar that was actually created by our very own Maya Gould-Weber, who is with us today. And these are, I know, icons that, or I believe were icons she gathered when she was in India for a pilgrimage and doing some training there. And so you can see that this is one way that in modern day and in our more kind of current way that we bring altars into our lives by bringing sacred objects or bringing stones that have a higher resonance or quality, like the crystals. So thanks for sharing your altar with us, Maya. And here, this is actually one of my own personal altars, which was from, it was from a 4-week course that I did. And so one of the ways that I have used altars in my work over the years is to, when I hold a workshop, when I hold a group, to create an altar and to have that be a centralizing place for my intention. And because I was raised in a tradition where icons were used, I still have a comfort and familiarity with that. And so that is something that I personally am drawn to, but isn't necessarily for everyone and not necessary for everyone. But I have here Kuan Yin and the Virgin of Guadalupe. And then as you can see, I have an affinity for hearts as well. So they have shown up. And then the basic candle, which is often an aspect of an altar. So I also want to share some altars that have been created by women that I was in a circle with, and we were doing an immersion in connecting to and honoring Mother Earth, Gaia, and really deeply connecting with her. And we had an opportunity to each create an altar as we went through this immersion. And a few of these really spoke to me. And so I reached out to the women and asked if I could share them with you because I thought they were quite beautiful. And this is one of them. And it was created by a woman named Sabri Raju. And we get to see it a few times. She did this very elaborate mandala below the altar. And then you see here her using the altar with the candle, lighting the icon. And again, it's like just seeing if you can feel a quality or an energy or an essence that comes through the image. Like if you soften your gaze and just allow yourself to be in relationship with that image and feeling that sense that something is being transmitted to you, because the unseen world is always available and present to transmit, whether it's divine love or grace or support to each of us. It's always present. And it's a matter of pausing, receiving, and recognizing that that's the case. And so creating altars is one way, again, to just reinforce that in our lives. So this is again, one of my own simple altars. When I create my podcast, I'm in a different room, and I'm the kind of person that I actually have little mini altars and not so many altars all over my house and my space. And it is a way to refine and heighten the energy there. So this particular very simple altar is in the space where I create my podcast. And so it sits to the side as I interview my guests and as I do my own recording. And then this is another beautiful altar that was created for the Gaia immersion. And it was made by a woman named Maggie Nilsson. So you can see hers looks very different. It's much more natural and has aspects of the natural world that are included in her altar. And then this, I just think, is exquisite and beautiful. It's actually the center of a medicine wheel, and it's kind of the holy within the holy place, or the sacred elevated place within that holy system of a medicine wheel, which for Native cultures is really about the cardinal directions, the 4 directions: east, west, south, north, and then the heartstone and the earth and the sky, and bringing all of those together. So this is at the heart of the medicine wheel. And if there are aspects I'm leaving out and you're of that tradition, please forgive me. Okay, so this is another altar that was used for a workshop that I had created with a colleague, and each of these little lights was for each of the participants, and everyone got to bring a sacred object and put it onto the altar, and flowers, which are often a very nice addition to any altar. All right, and then lastly, this is a photo from a personal retreat where I brought some goddess cards with me and drew some cards and just created the space and set the intention for a retreat that I was doing in my own journey. So just to give you some different ideas. So we'll pause there for now. So again, I want to just go back to this idea that an altar is a sacred space that you're creating in your space. And again, it can be outside or it can be in your home. And if you don't already have a space for yourself that is just for you, I deeply encourage you to carve that out, even if it's just a chair in a room that is your space to pray or meditate or to read contemplative or uplifting material, but to just think in those terms of creating sacred space for yourself, and then perhaps clearing off a place either in your room or in your office or in your kitchen. I have a sacred object in the middle of our kitchen island that helps with all of the activity and all the things that happen in the kitchen. Lots of coming and going. So any room, any place can be a place or a good space to create an altar for yourself. Any place that you want to bring in that sense of awareness and remembering and being tuned in or in touch with something bigger. So I showed you some of those examples just so you could have a sense, and I'm going to skip to the next one, just give you a sense of what's possible. And really there are limitless possibilities of what you can do in terms of creating your own personal altar. You could create something huge or, teeny and petite in miniature. It can be as simple as a candle or one thing, or it can be quite elaborate. So this I want to share with you is an altar space I created in my bedroom. And it's kind of a blend for me, both of family, honoring my family, and also things that support me in my life or touchstones in my life. And this is one example of what I would call a living altar. And when I use that term, what do I mean by that? Well, there's a couple of things. First and foremost is the idea that I am engaging with it regularly, meaning there is some relational aspect to what's going on. So I am, coming to the altar, and whether it is, again, offering a brief prayer or intention or alignment, that I'm engaging with it in some way. And the other aspect is that, there we go, is that it changes. That I change. There are some things that are the same and that remain the same, but there are other things that I bring in or I take off kind of as I need. So I'm always in tune with, like, what is it that wants to support me from this place? And I have a whole host of things. As you can see, I've collected all these stones from trips and things that people have given me. Photos of the family, shells, and dried roses. So it's a dynamic altar is one that is changeable or changing. So I'm going to show you a couple of these other photos. This is an altar that is illuminated at this point, but it starts out here. And this is actually an altar I created for those of you that I feel called to work with, my beloveds. So this is my beloved altar that I had set, I don't know, maybe 7 weeks ago. And then here again, I was illuminating and working with that. And then I recently, as I was preparing for this workshop, changed it. So there were things that I felt like were important to remove and new elements that felt like they wanted to be present. And in particular, I had a dear friend and colleague suggest to me that I create an altar specifically for this event, which of course makes perfect sense. And this spoke to me, this mermaid, which for me is a symbol of really going into the depths and really being rooted in that way. So she showed up here twice. And of course, my young self, my little 2-year-old self, wanted to be a part of it because she likes the adventure. So this is just some examples. And here we get a little closer look. All right, so let me see where we are. Oh, and then one more, a little bit different view, just to give you some idea. So coming back to your altar, and one of the things I had asked you to do prior to us gathering was to begin to think about your intentions for the year, or your word for the year. Some of you have identified a word. And I'm going to suggest that you even and I don't know if let's set that aside. I don't know if you had the opportunity to also start to think about what would be some items that would be a good symbol for these qualities or these words. So I'm going to ask you to, if you do have a symbol, or if you have found some objects for yourself, if you could just raise your hand or indicate in some way visually. Let me put my glasses on. Yeah. Okay. Grace, can you name what you found?
Yeah, a global heart. So I embody the global heart, and so that's what I'm bringing to some altar. I have a big heart, big red heart that I put on it to remind me of the global heart.
Yeah, deep breath. Beautiful. Right. Wonderful. Anybody else? Hobby or Maya? Yes? Do you want to?
I have a painting of a compass rose that I did, which is kind of like the center of my altar for this year that I've started. So reminds me to keep focused on where I'm going.
Beautiful. How about you, Maya?
I've been using a lot of flowers lately, and I think that really keeps me mindful of sort of the kind of changing qualities of myself.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So are the three of you pretty, I know, Maya, of course, that you are building altars, and I suspect that may be true for you as well, Grace and Hobby. Is that true? Yes. And is there anything you would like to share just about the way you have felt supported by them? Either in any of you. You can unmute yourselves and just jump in, because it's helpful to hear your experience.
For me, it's been part of a kind of morning sadhana practice to do mantra and meditation with right in front of the shrine that I've created. And that really kind of helps to anchor me and kind of give me a space to have that shift of consciousness. It's been really powerful for me.
Thank you. Yeah. Grace or Hobby?
Well, for me, I have it in my bedroom, beside my bed, that objects just find their way on it. It's like when I go to different retreats or different workshops, oh, okay, that feather or that seashell or, whatever. So then I just bring it and I collect it. And then, like you said, it rearranges itself. Every so often it'll want to change up. So I'll take things off, put things on. So yeah, I like that when you said that about a living altar that, you do interact with, and it does change over time.
Yes. Yes.
I can relate to that.
Yay.
Thank you.
Hobby? Can you share? Do you want to share?
Yeah, I realized that I have unintentional altars throughout my house. My kitchen table, things that sit there all the time are actually an altar. And the mantle in my living room, all kinds of pictures and objects. And my shelves have collections of things and their memories or like that. So they are, without me having thought about creating them as an altar.
Yes, right.
But this conversation has made me realize I have little altars everywhere.
Yes, yes. And that's why I felt called to make it a more conscious thing in our lives, because I do think that's true for many of us. I think that's true for many of us, that whether we are those women or those people that, are gathering things and placing them, and it is a way that, for me, I feel like our inner wisdom is guiding us behind the scenes in our life without the conscious mind necessarily knowing that. I have certainly seen the evidence of that in my own life. So it's like there are so many ways that I can see that my inner wisdom is going about quietly doing things, including, placing just what I need exactly where I need it. And then it's only later that it dawns on me and I recognize, like, oh, here's another way that I am being supported by the unseen within myself. And so I think that's true for many of us. And we are at a time in our lives when we're kind of coming into our leadership in ways of amplifying and bringing our wisdom, our light, our truth, divine love, global heart into the world. it's like we need everything. We need to tap into as much as we possibly can. And so making an altar creation process a more conscious experience or a more conscious practice in your life can be really powerful and empowering and transforming. One of the things that has been occurring in my own life is there has been some shifts and changes in my family and in my personal life. And I got really clear, because it was a place where fear could come in pretty easily. And so I got clear that I really needed to create an altar that was a grounding for what were my intentions and my prayers for the family in terms of the longer term vision or outcome of transformation that we're moving to naturally, but that we could really use that boost. So I have that actually behind me. So let me see what else is important to say or acknowledge. I guess I do want to, for those that may be less familiar with this process, similar to the tuning in and setting intentions, it's that idea of opening to that inner place of wisdom within you and allowing it to guide you in your life, period, but related today in terms of creating your altar. So sometimes we use just that measurement of what feels good in the body. So if I think about putting an altar in this corner of the room versus that corner of the room, it may feel better here. And while the rational mind may not understand that, it doesn't need to make sense to the rational mind. We as women are more strongly connected and guided by our inner sense, our inner wisdom. And so as we're doing the rearranging or the pulling in items to create the altar, it's like it is a way to strengthen that muscle of listening and trusting yourself. And it is a way for me that I love using my creativity. And for me, I am someone who really responds to beauty as a practice, meaning like the beauty of these items or the beauty of this photo, not necessarily the outer version of beauty that our culture talks about, but that more inherent, essential beauty. So that is a place where even the right and the left hemisphere of the brain are working together to kind of touch into another dimension of life and our experience. So all this can be done through the altar as well as symbolism. We've been talking a lot about that in terms of using symbols and symbolism. So one of the things I want to mention, because part of the direction my work is shifting into is really about helping women access these deeper places of resource, both within themselves and within life, tapping into the external world around us, Mother Earth, the natural world, our fellow human beings, but to get below, just like with that iceberg, get below the surface of just what we're seeing, but to that vast space of life and essential light or love or whatever words you choose to call it, that is wanting to express through us. And finding ways to do that is really critical in our lives. And many of us lead really, really busy lives. And as I said, we're being pulled in a lot of different directions. So one of the forms that I am going to be offering and creating is a form that I call a sanctuary day, which is a day to drop in to sanctuary for yourself, to create a sense of sanctuary, and to drop into sanctuary together with other women. And this is something that I had been experimenting with here locally in Richmond. And I felt this year really called to expand it beyond the Richmond area and to find a way for busy women, and sometimes women who frankly just want to create sanctuary for themselves at home, to do that together virtually. So it's something that I will be offering later in February. And for those of you that are on the call or are participating in this, there is a special price of $77 as opposed to the $97 cost to attend. But I'll be holding it virtually, and what we'll be doing is having 3 segments where we're coming together and doing practices that open us up to that more spacious, resourced place, that place of nourishment. So we will be using body-based practices and more of the feminine practices of connecting to our physical self and our sensual self and our creative self and our place of inner wisdom, that place of inner knowing. And as I said, it's a model that I've worked with here locally. And it's amazing how just dedicating 5 or 6 hours to yourself and coming together with other women who have that same intention, how it can shift your state of being. Because one of the things that I am growing increasingly aware of is that the more we open to that nourished, and for me, my word of the year is sumptuous, that more nourished and sumptuous state, which is available and does exist, like the more we can root into that, the more that we can be the conduits for that, and the more that we experience that richness and that fullness and that abundance and that ease. And I have this image of like the golden flow of honey. Like if you were just pouring and there was this stream of honey, and that's the vision literally that I have received, like being bathed in that honey. And that there is that sweetness and honey of life that's here and available even in the midst of upheaval and, having to face, whether it's grief or loss or change or transformation that feels challenging and hard, that there is still these places where we can taste and touch and experience that immediacy of grace, or that honey of the divine love that's available. And I'm all about helping you and women like you find that and connect to that, because wouldn't it just make life so much easier? I mean, wouldn't it just make it much more pleasurable and palatable and sumptuous? So I just wanted to share that piece with you as well, that the virtual sanctuary day is coming, and I'll be sending you follow-up information about that. But in the meantime, as we're coming to our close, I'm going to see if I can unshare my screen. So we can all, there we go, stop share. All come back together. Beautiful altar, yes. Hello, Maureen. Welcome. We didn't get to say hello to you. Maureen, would you, let's see. Would you like to say hello, Maureen, if you're still with us?
Hello.
Hi. At the very beginning, each woman shared where she was calling in from, and if there was a quality or an energy that she wanted to bring to the circle. So I thought I would give you that opportunity as well.
I don't know. I'm calling in from New York, and I don't know if I have any particular quality.
Okay. So I can share that, actually, why don't we I'm going to mute you again, Maureen. Thank you for being here and being with us. Let's see.
I hadn't thought of it.
Yes, I know. We're putting you on the spot. So Grace, do you want to share with us again?
Oh, creativity.
Creativity. Wonderful. And Maya, your quality?
My quality is self-awareness, clarity.
Yes, thank you. And then hobby?
Mine is focus.
Focus. Wonderful. Yeah, so before we bring this to a close, I just want us to get the chance to kind of look into each other's eyes and to remember that the women that you're looking at, the woman that you're here with, are, like are a form of the divine or the sacred. And that as we gather together, we get the chance to receive and take each other in that way. And to honor that. And to help us remember that. Because most of the time, that isn't necessarily how we're relating to ourselves. Although it is always true. Always true. All right, so we're going to bring this to a close for today. I am honored and grateful that you chose to spend your time with me and with the circle. And I would invite you, I will send you and follow up to this an invitation. I have a Facebook group called the Sacred Sisterhood, Sacred Feminine Sisterhood, sorry. And would love, love, love if you posted a photo of your altar or altars there, because I think it would be really fun. And if you just do a hashtag rooted in grace or hashtag altars when you post, that would be wonderful. So thanks for being here. And blessings on the rest of your day. Bye. Bye, Maureen.